Hi, welcome to City Scene with Mayor Mike Cahill. I'm your host, Walt Kosmowski. Mayor?
Walt, how are you?
It's good to see you. And our regular viewers will recognize that we're not in the studio today as we're having some major technical upgrades being done to the BevCam studio. And we are here as guests of the mayor in his office on the third floor of City Hall. Well, thank you for having us.
Oh, thanks for coming over.
And Mike, I'd like to ask you, there's a lot of things happening in the city this summer, a lot of activity, infrastructure projects, community events coming up, and maybe you can talk about some of the road construction and some of the major infrastructure projects that are happening, maybe the 1A, the Brimble Avenue, maybe the 1A project. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, you know, all of this comes with growing pains, and people have been incredibly helpful and patient about it. The good thing right now is we're really moving full bore. That's my phone, I'll quiet it. We're moving full bore with these projects, and the projects can happen in a good economy. That's when the state and federal funds can really be put towards, or should I say we get them, but putting some local funds towards roads and sidewalks is something we can best do when the economy is moving well. So. And the construction season is only in good weather, so everything does happen at once. The 1A project is a state project. It's federal and state dollars coming back to us. Of course, it's our gas tax money, but it's coming back to us. The city paid for the engineering work for the project, and then the federal and state dollars pay for all the construction work. And in 1A, we've been working from in front of the new middle school, right, where the old memorial building was torn down, and from there on down towards Gloucester Crossing, for the past several months. And that work is largely complete down to Gloucester Crossing, or should I say, there are 3 levels of pavement that need to be put down. Base, binder, and top. That might not be the wrong term, but this is a full depth reconstruction where you go down under the roadway, you put in new drainage, you regrade, and then you rebuild from the bottom up. And so the base and binder is down from in front of the new middle school down to Gloucester Crossing. They're working on sidewalks during the, down the length of that stretch. Drainage is already in, sidewalks are being worked on, and now the attention of the job in terms of in the road has been put down to the bottom of Rantoul Street. So this project is from the foot of the Beverly Salem Bridge at the beginning of Rantoul Street, all the way up Rantoul Street to Gloucester Crossing, and then turning west and heading up 1A past Dairy Queen to the front of the new middle school. So it started. The full depth reconstruction work started in front of the new middle school down to Gloucester Crossing. We're good, right? Now they're starting at the bottom of Rantoul Street and working in the other direction. This project in its totality will also include from the Walgreens and CVS on Rantoul and Elliott up to Cabot Street by Super Sub. It will also include all of the Gloucester Crossing intersection up past Bessie Baker, ball field to the corner of Pickett Street. So there's a lot to it. And the project will be done by a year from October.
So we're talking about October 2017. 17.
And so, it's being done in stages, working very hard to try to manage the challenges that people face in dealing with construction. And so, as I said, it's being done in phases, some down here, then some here, then some in the middle. One of the key points will be the rebuild of the Gloucester Crossing train crossing, and the Kittredge Crossing up by Dairy Queen train crossing, which we're coordinating with MassDOT and the MBTA to have done sometime next year. We were talking April, but it might be being pushed back a bit towards the summer of next year.
And will those physically look different, Mr. Mayor, the railroad crossings? Yes,
particularly Gloucester Crossing. There's a whole new design that's meant to greatly improve the traffic flow and the safety at that intersection.
And now touch on, you mentioned a little bit, but touch on a little bit more about, there's a lot of businesses along Rantoul Street, and you say this project is going in phases, and I think you have a plan to make sure that businesses, that customers still have access to businesses on Rantoul. How are you managing that?
A lot of that is just, old-fashioned, hands-on working to try to make sure that the schedule is as clear as it can be. And as the schedule ebbs and flows, as things get closer, that business owners and residents get that information. We try to ensure that at each intersection, where new parts of the job are happening, that there's signage that lets people know businesses are open. When the road is dug up, If there is any detouring that needs to happen, again, signage so people can walk up the sidewalk to the businesses. When we get to the point where we're ripping out sidewalks and repouring or repaving those stretches of sidewalk, trying to make sure that the businesses know as accurately as possible when it's going to happen, and that we provide for people to get in and out over that work.
Right.
Kevin Hartunian, who's sitting right off camera, our chief of staff, has been leading the effort to work with neighbors, business owners, business leaders in the community, to ensure that that flow of information keeps going, and that we, we're working with MassDOT and with Middlesex, the general contractor in the job, to try to ensure that people have all the information they need. There's no way for there not to be some disruption. We're trying to minimize it and manage it, and help help everybody who needs to conduct business to conduct it successfully. So that when the work's done by their business, they can get the full benefit of it.
Right. And I would like to, throw Kevin a kudo, because I'm also on the board of directors of the Greater Beverly Chamber, and we talk about this because these are business people that have their businesses there, and they talk about the communication between the mayor's office, the city, and the businesses, and they compliment the city on that. Now, and also, you're not just redoing the road, as you mentioned, you're redoing the curbs and the tree lawn, and even new plantings, right? New trees and...
Yes, I mean, a lot of trees got cut down last year, and it was the worst possible time because the foliage was just starting to look good. But the reality is there'll be more trees, healthier trees, that will all be planted as we rebuild after the full depth reconstruction and the creation of the sidewalks. Then the plantings come in. And also, as you know, there'll be bike lanes.
I was just going to ask that question, yeah. So there'll be
lots of great improvements, and there'll be also some improved treatments to intersections, some bump outs, and safer crossing areas for pedestrians. So there's a lot of work that's going into this. It is a Kevin's holding up the sign to move people to the website. Thanks, Kevin. Bev1A, we'll put it up as a graphic, because the website is something we're working hard to keep updated. But lots of improvements, safety improvements, amenities. It'll be a great stretch through our downtown, and it'll have a very positive impact on the growth of Rantoul Street, both residentially and business-wise, going forward.
Right. Now, as long as we're talking about construction of roadways, talk about the Brimble Avenue interchange. I believe it's fairly complete now, maybe with some plantings and prettying up. But the signage is there, as I know, the markings on the roadway. Tell us about that.
No, substantially complete, with just some final punch list items to finish off. When the roundabouts were partially built and winter was about to hit and there were difficult decisions about how to proceed, we pretty much had to open the roundabouts and worked very hard to ensure that they were safe to travel. Now, with all the curbing and the painting in the roadways and the signage, everything is much more natural and intuitive in its flow, and people can better understand how to move into the roundabouts and how to get where they're going. One of the great things about roundabouts is they have dedicated lanes and lane markings, and the signage is very good. It comes at you far enough in advance to make your decisions. Very basics about rules of the road when you come to roundabouts. The motorist in the roundabout has the right of way. The motorist approaching the roundabout yields.
Right.
And now that the signage is in and the markings are on the road and we're really at completion, our police department is working diligently to make sure that motorists obey those rules.
Right.
There are people who don't want to yield and would choose to gun it through a yield sign if they think they've got a bit of an opening. That's not safe driving. Those people will be pulled over and ticketed. People in the roundabouts need to feel comfortable and confident and safe in asserting their right of way. And so, that's a part of the getting used to. But I think people are doing very well with them, and so they become, in the big picture, safer than what was there. Because what was there, if you remember, for years and years, were these T intersections with stop signs and a need to pull out into traffic, left-turning movements across lanes of traffic, left turns from the main road down onto the connector road. All of those crossing movements were dangerous. So this improves that greatly, and it also moves many more cars through much more efficiently. It increases capacity for that whole corridor, which has
Absolutely.
been the goal.
Absolutely.
I think it's a great success.
Yeah.
And we're very happy with the results of it as we
I
approach
remember
completion.
those. I remember those left-hand turns well.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I want to mention that they did on the roadway, in case people forget, as far as yielding, there's a strip of yield signs, which is basically the isosceles triangle with the tip pointing down, and there's a strip of them across the roadway. So that also reminds
You get an A+ in geometry, didn't you?
that reminds a driver, if he sees that row of triangles pointing to him, that means that the other driver has the right of way. Yeah. Now,
Can we touch on the middle school because it's not on the list?
go ahead.
We forgot. I know when we were talking about topics, because I mentioned it, I want to just say we're incredibly excited. We're ahead of, maybe at worst on schedule. I think we're ahead of schedule a bit with the pile driving, and the piles are almost all in, the 1,200 plus piles that will support the school. Because the school's being built on a site that's largely clay, you can't just build and let it sit, it'll settle. So that we put 1,200 plus piles, steel piles down into the ground, and on that will sit some concrete pads and then the building. Very excited that we're on schedule, as I said, even a bit ahead of schedule. Concrete pouring will take place starting in the next couple weeks into the fall, and the erection of the steel will take place through the fall and into the winter.
Right.
So people are going to start to see much more above ground as we head towards winter.
Yeah.
So far, we've saved money, we've saved time for 2.5 years consistently, and we're moving into the real heavy part of construction. It's exciting. The school will be open, for the
September
fall 2008 start. We have 2 more years in Briscoe, and then we make the move. And we actually meet pretty much weekly on this project. There's a lot to learn, a lot to manage. We've got great partners in the people we've hired, our architect, our construction manager, our project manager, and they're doing great work for the taxpayers and for the kids of Beverly. It's going to be something special.
Yeah, and certainly one of the determiners of the speed of work is the winter. I mean, this past winter was very mild. That's why the roundabout. I don't think work ever stopped there because there really wasn't a lot of snow to. As opposed to 2 winters ago when we had those record snowfalls.
This is true.
We just have to keep our fingers crossed. Now, talking about the Brimble Avenue interchange, now let's talk about the so-called Whole Foods Plaza, which is still slated to go in there. The way that it was constructed, the curbing comes all the way around, but now tell us when, I understood that July was supposed to be the month when that project started. Tell us about that, bring us up to date.
I don't know when they'll break ground. As you well know, but the public doesn't always kind of draw a distinction or understand the distinction. The road project of rebuilding the connector roads and improving the intersection, the exit at exit 19, the intersection with Sawyer Road and with Brimble, that is a state grant funded, city built project on property that will be owned by MassDOT. It's an interesting collection of responsibilities. But the point of that project is to improve the flow of traffic throughout that corridor to help provide greater capacity for economic investment and development throughout the corridor. On Tozer Road and Sawyer Road and that brief stretch of Brimble, Dunham Road up by the Music Theater and Otis Road up to the old landfill, that whole area is the area that's focused for commercial industrial development. A lot of it's already developed. Some can be redeveloped to higher and better use. Some is undeveloped. But the whole point of this project was to create safer, better movement of traffic and a greater capacity for more traffic as the economic investment in that area happens. It was not done for any one specific project, and that was a point made clear by the Secretary of Economic Development and me in all of our dealings. The Whole Foods project is one single specific project on a piece of privately owned property that was brought before the planning board on multiple occasions. Now, I think it's a good project, done right, and I think it's now been permitted to be done right. They've been involved with the MEPA process before the state Department of Environmental Protection, and that's the environmental process for getting approvals to use the property. So, the property owner is just about through that, I believe. I don't know if they're breaking ground later this year or next spring, but they're breaking ground as soon as they can. They did have to go back to planning board a second time because the original approvals were conditioned upon all the curb cuts that they said they could get
Right,
from
and they had
MassDOT, and MassDOT eventually said, we won't give you this one.
You're right.
It's not safe.
Right.
So they had to come back with a different configuration of curb cuts. They got another round of approvals from the planning board, and then they went back to the state and started the MEPA process.
Right.
That's why it's been delayed, but as far as I understand, they are planning to break ground as soon as they're, completed that process.
Okay.
They will get, they've been approved through MassDOT for curb cuts into the project from Sawyer Road, an in and out, and an in along the connector road for all traffic, an out just for
Just for
delivery
trucks, yeah.
vehicles, and then an in and out up on Brimble Ave, that's a local road.
Right.
But the curb cuts on Sawyer and the connector road were what kind of
Right.
required state approvals. And so that's been what's taken them more time. Everything I understand is they're still building as soon as they're cleared to, and that the Whole Foods market is the anchor tenant, and everything else flows from that.
Right. Well, thank you for that update.
Sorry for
Mr.
the
Mayor.
too long answer.
No, that's great. I'd rather the people really know what's going on, and you can set their expectations accordingly. Now, let's get away from road improvements. Let's talk about other improvements and other construction projects in the city that I'll let you talk about. And I specifically would like to know, and I'm sure viewers would, about Herd Stadium, if you could talk about that.
Yes, well, as you know, we were able to, with the mild winter, that really helped with Herd Stadium, and we had all the new stands constructed and in place during the winter before the spring.
Right.
Which was a big goal of ours, because we wanted for the opportunity for the high school kids to graduate at Herd. The weather didn't cooperate this year, but they had a great graduation in the field house nonetheless. And Herd Stadium has been back online, therefore, since the end of summer, beginning of spring. Looking forward to the football team being able to play home games there again this fall. And for Herd to be a great resource for the schools in the city for a long time to come.
Yeah. Anything on the press box?
Yes, we've been talking with the Football Boosters Club and trying to make sure that there's a press box in place. We're looking at a very cost-effective, low-cost way of bringing in a storage trailer and placing it up on top of the hill on what used to be the home side, and therefore allowing for both the broadcasting and some filming of the games to go on up there. Hopefully that'll be in place in time. As you know, the stands, the 2,000 seats, have all been constructed on what used to be the visitors' side. Good thing is that's where the sun hits.
That's where the sun, There's no window.
That's where the sun hits. Where the home stands historically were, there are no stands left there.
Right.
But our Department of Public Services has done great work in really rebuilding that hillside, and it's grassy, it's pleasant, it's not as steep as you might have thought now that you see it without the stands in place.
Yeah.
And it looks like a wonderful spot to stand or to sit on a blanket, or sit out and watch a game if you choose to sit or stand on the hillside, as opposed to going and sitting in the bleachers.
And thank you for mentioning taping the football games, because now BevCam, of course, will be able to broadcast the Beverly Home football games live and stream them as well, which we had never been able to do before.
And some of the best marching band performances in the Northeast at halftime.
There you go. Right. There you go. Any other infrastructure development projects that you'd like to mention, as long as we're on that topic?
Gosh. Well, over at Centerville School, we're putting in a parking area out to the left-hand rear of the school, which will, finally give some real relief to the parking crunch that's been there for years.
Yeah.
When the elementary schools were expanded and renovated back between 1995 and the early 2000s, and I think Centerville was the last of them to be done. So the last 12 years or so, we've had that many more classrooms, we have that many more adults working there with kids during the course of the day, and it's just made it tough. So we're creating an additional 30 plus parking spaces out back to help handle that need, which will improve both parking and the dynamic with the afternoon pickup that we've needed help with for some time. So that's important. Not new real construction, but we're trying to activate a couple of public spaces, the park right next to City Hall here, as well as the lawn in front of the library. And the lawn is so newly redone, and it's beautiful out there in front of the main steps of the library looking out in the common. So what we've done is we made a couple very small investments. We put in a couple of bocce backboards out here, and we bought a set of bocce balls. We bought a couple of cornhole game, contraptions. And if you walk into the first floor of City Hall with your driver's license and you give it to the receptionist, you can take the bocce balls or the cornhole beanbags and go out on the lawn and enjoy a game on a nice day.
Yeah.
And we just want to get more people enjoying this public space.
Yeah.
So it's really nice thing, and everybody is challenging each other to games on lunch hour after work around here. But we want the whole of the community to come down and enjoy it. We bought some faux Adirondack chairs at $20 each to put out on the front lawn and the front steps of the library.
There you go. How can you got an invitation from the mayor
please.
too?
and people are sitting out having a cup of coffee, reading a book, taking advantage of the Wi-Fi from the library, maybe just catching some sun, but enjoying the space in the way that we need for people to really take advantage of.
Let me ask you another thing. You and I were out at Camp Paradise a few months back. Tell us what's happening there.
Well, probably Bruce Doig could better tell you as the director of the rec department, but we have a lot of classes and camps that are spending time on campus at Camp Paradise now. During the evening hours, throughout the course of the year, we have some of our classes going on in the main building, and we have some of our campers going there on a regular basis for different things. So it's really been about trying to activate that space as fully as we can now that now that the city owns it and the rec department really manages its calendar for us. We'll be looking in this coming school year to get more of the school programming out there for whatever they may be able to do with their science curriculum or whatnot. But it's ramping up, and it's a great resource to have in place now.
Yeah. Now, I'd like to switch gears a little bit and talk about a project, a program that is near and dear to you, and that's the so-called Summer Literacy Program, which started last year and got some very good results. And I understand that this year we're in it again, and you've doubled the number of participants. Maybe you could tell our viewers exactly what that program is for those who don't know, and exactly how that's working.
Well, I've got to thank our partners. They're numerous, and they have helped us raise a budget to double the program. So last summer we offered 60 incoming first graders this chance to come to a 6-week program, 3 hours every morning of literacy, and then 3 hours every afternoon of traditional summer camp at the Y. It's a tremendous program. We did get great results. The literacy scores for the whole first grade, which are tested every year in September, were significantly better than the prior 4 years. And all the first graders were tested, but the real variable, the real identifiable variable was that 60 of them got the summer program. And it helped them be at a much better level to start back up in the fall and just fly from there. So this year we're offering it to 60 incoming first and 60 incoming second graders. We hope a year from now to add incoming third graders so that we'll be able to offer it for 3 summers in a row, in hopes that every child in Beverly will be at or as close as possible to grade level when they enter the 3rd grade.
Right.
It's an incredible program. In education, the focus with early education is learning to read. By the time you enter 3rd grade, the goal is that you have those reading literacy skills and you can use them to learn more subject matter. So that's the focus, in trying to get as many kids as possible to that point. The kids are identified by their classroom teachers and their literacy coaches and specialists in the elementary schools. And then once they're identified, we reach out to families and offer them the opportunity. And the response has really been overwhelming.
Yeah.
There's much more to say, but I was in the program this morning visiting one of the classrooms for almost an hour, and to watch what these kids receive. We're able to provide 2 classroom teachers and a college-age student intern, so that we have 3 adults per 20 kids. And it really makes a difference to provide that type of concentrated resources.
Now tell us, speaking about youngsters, tell us a little bit about the park down on Dane Street Beach, which has been named for Bella Marino. Rich Marino's the daughter that he lost when she was a little girl. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's Rich and Josie Marino, wonderful, wonderful people. And Josie has spent a number of years really working towards this, this dream of a park down at Dane Street that everyone can enjoy. That was their daughter Bella's favorite place to play, to be, to enjoy. And Josie worked with a lot of other wonderful people who raised real money, got a lot of donated time to help build the playground when the equipment was all purchased. We were able to help by dedicating some Park of the Year funds through the rec department budget. But really, it was Josie and a group of folks who just believed in this, this dream of making this playground real. And boy, it's amazing. It's beautiful.
I just drove by there the other day.
And to have it right there for everybody to use, it's the kind of park that you would pay money to go into and get into and enjoy, and nobody needs to. It's right there for the public.
Yeah. And I know what you're speaking about, the volunteers, because I'm a Beverly Rotarian, as you are, and we had a big group of Beverly Rotarians who were out there on that day that you were talking about, putting things together and getting that park ready. Now, let me ask you about something that just happened a few weeks ago down at Lynch Park, the carriage house. I think it was a careless disposal of a cigarette, but that I understand through the media. How is that affected? Is it going to back up plans to rehab the carriage house? Tell us how that stands right now.
Well, hopefully the opposite. But right now, the insurance adjuster's been out. We've been working with them, with the insurance company, and we'll see what type of repairs are necessary and what get covered. The good thing, the really wonderful thing, is that this could have been a real total loss, and it wasn't. Our firefighters and the mutual aid help we got from other nearby communities, they were on it so quickly, and they really contained that fire to the right-hand side of the building, which is largely storage, and kept it away from the left-hand side of the building, which is the beautiful space that has had some money invested in it and that we use for public functions and rent out for private functions. So that's incredible. And the bravery of the firefighters, because they have to get right into that building. They rush right in and they knock it down. And I was able to go inside and see where they'd been and what they had to do. A lot of work, it's not just knocking back flames. They had to get to windows and punch the windows out to get released. They had to go into the roof and, on the right-hand side and make some holes and cuts in the roof again to get, the oxygen out. And they really did incredible work. But the upshot of it is, because they were so heroic in how they fought it, they minimized the damage, and we still have a very beautiful facility to work with going forward. Timing-wise, we just awarded a contract to a consultant who's going to do the study of what the carriage house needs going forward to be fully restored. Yeah. That's separate and apart. I mean, that was put through the Community Preservation Act process, and we were able to secure some funds through the Community Preservation Act funds that the city raises every year, or should I say, we all raise. Everybody pays a bit of a surcharge on our property taxes. Some of that money is going to do a study on what's exactly needed there. It'll help us build the program for it. Yeah. We know some of what's needed. We know that an HVAC system's needed. We know a new roof's needed. We know new siding. But this study will really help prioritize, the condition of different things and how to move forward.
Yeah, and I know that. Tell us about the splash pad that was introduced last year. That's really gone over big, hasn't it, for the kids?
Well, I tell you, when the fire happened on the 4th of July, and they had to shut off the splash pad so that there was enough water to fight the fire. The kids and the families were great about it, because they had to wait out several hours before they could turn the splash pad on again. But that was just opened a year ago, and it is the biggest hit going. I mean, parents, grandparents, they love to just sit there and watch the kids and grandkids have a blast. The kids, they love being there. It's not that fancy. It's got about 15 different elements, but you can have a bucket of water fall on your head. You can get the big water cannons and shoot them at each other, but they don't turn around to hit the parents. They stay within the splash pad. There are different sprinklers and all. It's a wonderful way for kids to cool off. A lot of kids will go in the salt water at the beaches, but this also lets them cool off right there when their parents and grandparents can sit and watch them. Some of them get in there with them. Yeah.
Well, Mr. Mayor, we have about a minute or so left. Any final thoughts that you want to share with our viewers before we end this segment?
Sure. It's summertime. There's a lot happening. Greatly appreciate everybody's patience with all the work that's going on. Make sure that that everybody remembers that a week from Wednesday is the Grand Prix bike race downtown. The Saturday after that is the first of 2 block parties downtown. I know that's all being publicized. So the 27th is the bike race, the 30th is the first block party, and that all kicks off Homecoming Week, which runs over those next 10, 11 days, culminating in the fireworks on August 7th. It's a great, wonderful time in the community. want to make sure people get out and enjoy it, and love to see everybody.
Yeah. Well, Mayor Cahill, Mike, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
And I'd like to remind our viewers that you have been watching City Scene with Mayor Mike Cahill. I'm your host, Walt Kosmowski, and we'll see you next time.